Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari performs last Umrah ritual in Makkah as president. Plus, French court set to rule on constitutionality of pension reform. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First in the news tonight is an update from President Muhammadu Buhari's trip to Saudi Arabia, where he has performed the Umrah rituals amid tight security at the Grand Mosque in Makkah early today. In a terse statement by senior specialist for the affairs of the Grand Mosque and Nigerian embassy staff. Meanwhile, a day earlier, President Buhari had also visited and prayed at the Prophet's Mosque in the second holy city of Medina. Away from that now, no fewer than 2 million vulnerable Nigerians. Senior Special Assistant to the President in Media and Publicity, Office of the Vice President Laulu Akonde, in a statement today said the NPRGS Steering Committee met at the Presidential Villa Abuja. Akonde said a progress report presented at the meeting, chaired by Vice President Yemi Osibanjo, also indicated that 1.6 million smallholder farmers set up a panel to look into the alleged assault of personnel and customers of Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company (PHED) over an unpaid 6 million naira electricity bill by officials of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC). A statement signed by the Director of Public Relations NSCDC Abuja Olushola Odumosu said the Corps promised to caution its officers and men against a repeat of such incident in the future. Meanwhile, the federal government has filed criminal charges against Seplat Energy plc and its chief executive officer Roger Brown for alleged breach of the Immigration Act. Allowed Brown, whose visa was earlier revoked, to accept employment as the CEO of the company without the statutory approval of the Controller General of Immigration or the consent of the Minister of Interior. The federal government also reportedly accused the defendants of his immigration documents. According to the charge, the offense committed contravened sections 36, subsection 1A and 71 of the Immigration and it's punishable by the Immigration Act 2015. However, no date. President Olusegun Obasanjo, ahead of Sierra Leone's general election in June, has led the West African Elders Forum YF fact-finding mission to the country. The YF team, which also has former President Goodluck Jonathan and former Vice President of the Gambia, Fatoumata Tambajang, electoral process. Reports say the two-day mission in support of inclusive and peaceful general elections will end today. According to reports, members of the mission are expected to hold consultations with the country's political actors and stakeholders, civil society groups, and the diplomatic corps, the electoral management bodies and agencies in a bid to ascertain the level of preparedness towards conducting free, fair, and credible federation for paying 74 billion naira as social benefits without giving a comprehensive breakdown in the 2016 budget. Reports say the Auditor General of the Federation in the 2016 report had raised concern over the payment of 262.4 billion naira without a breakdown. According to reports, the committee observed that the Accountant General could not address the query. The committee therefore recommended to the Senate that the Accountant General should refund the 74 billion naira in line with financial regulation. However, the Senate to the Green Chambers now, where the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has denied allegations that he is working against his Deputy Speaker Idris Wase and 8 others Gbajabiamila, in a tweet today, insisted he for the position. He added that only the All Progressives Congress (APC) can decide the fate of the candidates through zoning. In another development, the president of Turkey, Tayyip Erdogan, has congratulated Nigeria. He believed that as strategic partners, Nigeria, under Tinubu's leadership, will continue its course to a prosperous future. According to him, Turkey attaches great importance to improving its relations with Nigeria as the strongest nation on the African continent. Now, in education, they continue to dominate a top spot in his administration. Speaking while receiving the management team of Capital Express Assurance Limited at NYC National Directorate's headquarters, Maitama, Abuja today, the Director General said the scheme would continue to prioritize issues that concern core welfare in the administration of the scheme. Brigadier General is signed with the NYC stated that there is a need for the two organizations to be taking time to jointly assess the implementation of the accord from time to time to identify and address gray areas. Away from that now, the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency LASEMA has revealed that there were no casualties recorded in the collapsed building at Banana Island, Ikoyi, a result of a truck which ran into it. The agency said efforts are ongoing to reconstruct the building to ground zero to forestall any secondary incident. Recall that a 7-story building under construction collapsed yesterday on First Avenue in In a separate development, the Assistant Inspector General ordered his watch against acts that can bring the force into disrepute. Akonde spoke in Osogbo while decorating newly promoted officers with their new ranks. The AIG warned that anyone caught engaging in acts that could bring the force into disgrace would not be spared. It is disclosed that the promoted officers had diligently kept the society safe. Elsewhere, Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State and the leadership of the Middle Belt Forum have called for the postponement of the 2023 census until internally displaced persons (IDPs) in the North Central Geopolitical Zone are resettling of over 134 persons in 1 week. The attacks occurred in the Mbam community in the Guma local government area. Reports say the attacks were allegedly perpetrated by headsmen in Apa, Otokpo and Guma areas of the census start date from May 3, 2023, an appeal that resonated with the governor. Back here, some residents of Uyo have lamented the destruction of property caused by whirlwind following the recent heavy rainfall in the state. According to them, the whirlwind had pulled off roofs of some houses and shops, damaged market wares, and the transformer of the government to come to their aid in fixing the damaged transformer in order to restore power supply.
The effect of the wild wind that accompanied with the rain that failed on Sunday was so disastrous. In fact, on Sunday we, the occupants of this building, couldn't stay here during the rain because the wind was very heavy. It pulled away our roofs. Most of our people were all, they were wet with waters. So it was very disastrous. If there's any way the government can help us so that such occurrence will not happen again.
The wild wind storm on Sunday, it was very disastrous. It destroyed many poles in our streets. It fell down like 4 to 5 to 6 poles in our street as I'm to transformer and enter those streets by your right. You will see many poles there. It affected some transformer. One pole even fell on top one transformer and burst the transformer. So I'll beg the government to go and assist us and work the transformer so that we can have a light.
Still to come in the news.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment 12733, Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Affecting the common Nigerian, from issues on politics,
Hello Nigeria, I remain committed.
security, education, health, lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeken every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Hey, thanks for staying tuned. We move on now to internationally brokered peace deal. The group has been withdrawing from areas it had captured. President Felix Tshisekedi said according to the agreement, the M23 rebels are to it was expecting negotiations with the Kinshasa government. Reports say with the president ruling that out, the peace process could stumble. Meanwhile, over the last 18 months still in Africa, Liberia's Supreme Court has dismissed opposition's request to halt the ongoing nationwide without first demarcating constituencies, according to the recent national census, was unconstitutional. But in a unanimous verdict, the court said it saw no basis for disturbing the voters' registration exercise, since the National Elections Commission's NEC ruling allows the electoral body to move ahead with Phase 2 of the voter registration exercise, having already conducted Phase 1 last month, which was overshadowed by a series of technical glitches. Emerson Mnangagwa in the presidential elections. The Citizens Coalition for Change, CCC, said Chamisa Wuza a crackdown on its political opponents. Meanwhile, the election is expected to take place in August. Some opposition campaign rallies have been banned by the police. The port city of Sfax on Wednesday, 72 of the 110 on board were rescued. Several are missing, but reports say all of them were in the Middle East. The Tunisian National Guard says 14,000 migrants have been rescued in the first 3 months of this year, 5 times more than in the same period last year. In the meantime, the Sudanese army said that the mobilization in the capital Khartoum and other cities of a paramilitary following dispute that has hampered a planned transition to democracy. The Rapid Support Forces RSF moves represented a clear violation of law. The RSF is a part of widespread human rights abuses. It joined with the military to overthrow long-ruling strongman Omar Hassan al-Bashir in a coup in 2019. Meanwhile, Dagalo, also known as Hemedti, is now deputy leader. Meanwhile, 32 Kenyan nationals have been sentenced to 10 years in jail by a military court sitting in Uganda's northeastern district in a military court in Uganda. Uganda's Deputy Army spokesperson Colonel Dio Al-Kiki has confirmed the sentences. According to reports, each offense attracts a 10-year jail term, and the court ruled that the convicts will serve the sentences concurrently. The Kenyans are all arrested in government prison. Meanwhile, Uganda's army said the arrests were part of a disarmament exercise in the region. Hours when calling VIPs to pass. It came after police closed roads for 4 hours as Mpango closure of roads. On the foreign scene now, Russia said today it had cut off Ukrainian forces inside Bakhmut, was unable to verify the status on the ground in the eastern town, which has turned into the longest and bloodiest fight since Russia invaded Ukraine last year. Russian troops have been battling since last summer to capture the town, which had a pre-war population of 70,000 and whose fall. Ukrainian army told reporters that it had communication with its troops inside Bakhmut and was able to send them munitions. Still on the foreign scene, Norway has expelled 15 employees of the Russian Secret Service, saying they carried out activities incompatible with their diplomatic status. Meanwhile, the ministry said the diplomats must leave Norway within a short period of time, and visa applications from intelligence officers would be rejected. In the meantime, a missile reports say sirens blared across Hokkaido and residents were told to evacuate immediately this morning. Meanwhile, the authorities later said the missile did not land, has already fired 27 missiles this year. In the meantime, a storm charging towards Western Australia, WA, has reported headland today and is predicted to be the strongest to hit the region in 14 years. Meanwhile, Port Hedland's Mayor Peter Carter said evacuation centers had been set up in the town. Elsewhere, the European Union's central data regulator said it was forming a maker OpenAI. Italy temporarily banned the program last month over allegations its data gathering broke privacy laws, and France's regulator said today it had opened a formal breakfast of prompts and has proved itself capable of passing some tough exams. Away from reform proposal should be accepted, modified or rejected based on the guidelines of the French Constitution. According to reports, not once in living memory is taxed with ensuring that legislation does not contravene the Fifth Republic's Constitution presented by Charles de Gaulle in 1958. Meanwhile, the Council is not a politicized body like the UN. Still in France, where President Emmanuel Macron's recent trip to Beijing was billed as a chance to showcase European unity and persuade Chinese leader Xi Jinping to help rein in Russian aggression, did more to rile his EU partners. In an interview with newsmen, Macron warned against Europe being dragged into the conflict between Washington and Beijing. He said, if the standoff over Taiwan that France seeks. In another development, former U.S. President Donald Trump has arrived in Manhattan for a deposition before New York's Attorney General Letitia James against Trump and his 3 adult children for fraud, accusing them of misstating the values of real estate property to obtain favorable loans and tax benefits, adding that extending the deadlines would provide the necessary time to review the staggering volume of materials, including millions of pages of documents Stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are advertised on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised.
Who should be invited here for examination? My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the
Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord.
Citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria, legally speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigeria, from issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria. I remain committed.
security, Obum and Uyai Anyeken every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories on how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, telling the African story.
You're still watching Spectrum News at 9. Many thanks for staying tuned. Up next is the Business Report with Blyden. Okay.
Thank you, Xavier Roberts. Good evening. It is Business News. My name is Blyden Ukem. The token offered by the cryptocurrency exchange, Future Exchange Trading (FTX), filed for bankruptcy due to alleged financial abuse by the co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried. FTX is considering reopening at some point in the future, its lawyers from Sullivan and Cromwell said during a court hearing on Wednesday, as demand for the crypto token hits $2.28, up from its lowest in 24 hours of $1.33. This is higher than the 56.47% growth recorded in the first quarter of 2020. Sector workers. According to the Office of National Statistics, a rise in construction activity had been offset by walkouts by teachers and civil servants. It follows a surprise 0.4% jump in economic growth in January. Jeremy Hunt noted that GDP, the measure of economic growth, had grown by 0.1% in the 3 months to February. In Nigeria, the federal government has approved the procurement of installation of luggage scanners in all railway stations in Abuja, Kaduna, and Kano, to reports. The Minister of State for Transportation, Ademola Adegoroye, who briefed State House correspondents after the week's Federal Executive Council meeting, said the procurement would cost 498 million naira. He further stated that the new installation was part of the federal end of today's trading session on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The benchmark Oshe Index, PAD, 8.83 basis points to close at 51,944.58 points. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 28.3 trillion naira. Compared with the previous trading day, in the aggregate, 108 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 18 gainers and 21 losers. Transcorp Nigeria led the gainers with 10% share price appreciation, closing at 1 naira 54 kobo per share. On the losing side, Transcorp Nigeria recorded the highest volume of 107 million traded shares. This is all on business news, and back to Xavier Robert for the rest of the news.
Many thanks, Blyden. In spite of the brain drain in the country's health sector, Ojima stated this during an interview and expressed worry over the exodus of Nigerian medical practitioners leaving the country for greener pastures abroad. Recall that a bill was sponsored by a lawmaker from listing license. The bill had passed second reading in the House of Representatives. However, Ojima has argued that notwithstanding the high number of medical practitioners leaving the country, there were still many doctors unemployed in the country. From Oxford University, the vaccine called R21 appears to be hugely effective in stark contrast to previous ventures in the same field. According to reports, trial data from preliminary studies in Burkina Faso showed the R21 vaccine was up to 80% are in line to benefit from the vaccine. Moving on now to sports, where Bayern Munich have suspended forward Sadio Mane for one game following an altercation with Leroy Sané after this week's Champions League loss to Manchester City. According to reports, former City winger Sané was hit available for manager Thomas Tuchel in Wednesday's return leg against Manchester City in Munich. Bild reported the clash started in the dying stages of Bayern's loss in Manchester, with footage showing the two arguing on the pitch. Philips Sports Al-Nassr with the dressing room, which includes Cristiano Ronaldo. According to reports, he recently confronted the players, a move which proved patience set out in his club's ambitious project. With 7 fixtures left to play, Al-Nassr is currently in second place, 3 points behind Al-Ittihad. Still in sports, Arsenal legend Thierry Henry has picked Real Madrid forward Vinicius Jr. as the best left winger in the world in the league quarter-final clash between Real Madrid and Chelsea. The Brazilian made a huge contribution in Los Blancos' 2-0 win over Real Madrid in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-finals, contributed to both goals. Now, Napoli manager Luciano Spalletti has revealed that the club's talismanic forward Victor Osimhen will be available for the second leg of the UEFA Champions League quarterfinal. Partenope fell to a 1-0 defeat to their Serie A rivals as Algerian midfielder Ismail Benatia scored the decisive goal 5 minutes before the break. However, the reverse fixture will take place next week, Tuesday, at the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium. A club in Saudi Pro League SPL that is the same club footing the bills of iconic striker Cristiano Ronaldo. The report by La Gazzetta Sport claims that the 35-year-old wants to form a formidable partnership with Ronaldo in Saudi Arabia. Messi is reportedly considering the move as he plans his next plans in recent games following their exit from the UEFA Champions League. Meanwhile, another SPL side, Al Hilal, are reportedly still on entertainment now. News popular comedian Bright Okwacha, also known as Basket Mouth, has confirmed that he truly separated from his wife Elsie. Recall that in December 2022, the comedian announced on social media that he and Elsie were splitting after 12 years of marriage. The announcement, however, saw still in entertainment, the family of British miniskirt pioneer Mary Quant has announced her demise. Quant, the fashion queen of Britain's swinging 60s, who was credited with popularizing clothes, fun and inexpensive. She played an indisputable role in turning the thigh-scheming super short hemlines into an international trend, courageous among others. Well known much for her iconic bob hairstyle as for her designs, Quant also created hot pants, the skinny rib sweater, and waterproof mascara. Acting as an executive producer, according to Warner Bros. Discovery, the series will be a faithful adaptation of Rowling's mega-selling books about the blind platforms. HBO Max and Discovery Plus will officially launch the series in the United States on May 23. And finally, on entertainment tonight, Olalekan Ponle, popularly known as Mr. Woodsbury, had fraud as well as luxury cars and watches to the foreign government. According to his plea agreement, he is required to pay back the sum of 8 million cybercrime alongside his associate Raman Hashpati Abbas, who is currently serving an 11-year sentence for a similar fraud charge. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website.